When your husband tells you he wants a temporary separation, you don't immediately assume he's planning your financial funeral, but maybe you should. My name is Leah Durant, and I thought I was married to the most thoughtful man on earth, Ethan Durant, charming, dependable, every bit the picture-perfect husband. For 7 years, we'd built what I thought was a life. A house we bought together, vacations we planned down to the playlist, even the silly inside jokes we'd text in the middle of the day. I was the kind of woman who loved stability. He was the kind of man who loved control. I just didn't see it until it was too late. It started one chilly Thursday in November. I came home from work to find Ethan sitting at the dining table, his laptop open, hands clasped like he was preparing for a funeral. "Leah," he said softly, "we need to talk." My stomach dropped. Every woman knows that tone. He looked up, eyes weary but rehearsed. "I think we need a break. Just a temporary separation, some space to figure things out." I blanked. Space from what? He sighed dramatically. "Us, the arguing, the stress. You know I love you, but maybe this is how we save our marriage, by stepping back before it collapses." It sounded almost noble, reasonable even, and that's what made it dangerous. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe this was a pause, not an ending. So when he said he'd found a lawyer to draft a simple separation agreement just to make things easier, I nodded. It was only later that I'd realize he was making things easier for himself. The first red flag came from Mara, my best friend since college. We were having coffee when I mentioned the temporary separation. She frowned. "Leah, people don't hire divorce lawyers for breaks. They hire therapists." I laughed it off, but her words clung to me. Still, I wanted to trust Ethan, so when he handed me the paperwork a week later, I didn't immediately notice how thick it was, or how it wasn't labeled separation agreement at all. The header read, "Petition for Dissolution of Marriage." I froze. "Ethan, this says divorce." He smiled calmly, the kind of smile that made me hate him later. "It's just legal language. My attorney said it's standard. You know how the system works. We can undo it once we're ready." It sounded so convincing that I almost believed him again, but my gut didn't. That night, after he went to bed, I pulled out the papers and read every word. By page 3, my heart was pounding. He wasn't just filing for divorce. He was filing for full ownership of the house, claiming he'd paid the down payment alone, a lie, and requesting I vacate the property upon decree. In other words, he was trying to legally erase me. The next morning, I confronted him. "Ethan, what is this?" I said, slamming the papers on the kitchen island. "You said this was a separation. You lied." He didn't even flinch. "Calm down, Leah. You're overreacting. It's just precautionary language." "Precautionary? You're literally asking a judge to hand you the house." He rolled his eyes. "It's my name on the mortgage, remember? You never switched it." I froze. He was right. When we bought the house, I was between jobs, and the lender had said it was simpler to list him as the sole applicant. I'd paid half the down payment from my savings, but it hadn't mattered then. We were a team. Now, that decision was a loaded gun pointed straight at me. When I refused to sign, he shrugged. "Fine, I'll just file without your cooperation, but don't say I didn't try to be fair." He walked out, slamming the door behind him. I remember standing there, shaking, realizing something important. The man I'd loved had already replaced me in his mind, and I was done being naive. That night, I called Mara again. "He's trying to take the house," I whispered. "Then take his plan and make it your own," she replied. "If he wants paperwork, give him paperwork." That's when I decided, if he wanted a divorce, he'd get one, my way. I reached out to attorney Clara Hensley, a quiet but sharp-tongued woman known for winning cases people thought were unwinnable. She listened as I told her everything, every manipulation, every lie, every missing word. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "He's weaponizing the legal system," she said, "but you've got leverage. The house isn't as one-sided as he claims. You contributed financially, and there's enough digital evidence to prove it." I blanked. So what do we do? Clara smiled slowly. We let him think he's winning. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and I barely spoke. He started staying late at work, which I knew meant he was seeing someone else, the kind of woman who believed his half smile and fake depth. I found texts one night confirming it, a woman named Serena, telling him she couldn't wait for the house to be theirs. That text didn't break me. It sharpened me. I forwarded the messages to Clara. She smiled. Excellent. Proof of infidelity can shift settlement dynamics. But we weren't going to settle. We were going to rewrite the ending. Ethan came over one Saturday, carrying a folder of documents. Leah, he said with exaggerated patience, I want to do this peacefully. My lawyer drafted new terms. All you have to do is sign. He slid the folder toward me like it was a gift. I pretended to hesitate. You promise this won't ruin me financially? Of course not. You'll be fine. I nodded, took the folder, and smiled. Okay, I'll sign it tomorrow. The moment he left, I called Clara. We met that night in her office, the city lights glowing against the window. She flipped through the pages quickly, marking sections with her pen. He's sneaky, she murmured, but not clever enough. Then she did something genius. She retyped his exact agreement, identical in format and signature pages, except for the distribution clauses. In her version, every asset was assigned to me. The house, the savings, even his car. She labeled it the same, formatted it the same, and inserted an updated page number sequence. When he files, Clara said, his lawyer will think it's their final draft. By the time they realize, it'll be stamped by the court. I stared at her. That's possible? She smiled. Perfectly legal, as long as it's signed and filed under your consent. He opened the door to deceit. We're just walking through it with heels on. A week later, Ethan stopped by again. You ready to sign? He asked. I nodded and handed him the stack of papers, the altered version. My hands didn't shake. He flipped through the pages lazily, his confidence radiating. Good, he said. Once this is filed, we can both move on. He didn't even notice that the terms had changed. He just grabbed the folder and left. I exhaled, adrenaline flooding me. Clara filed my countersigned version the next morning, officially entering it into the court system under the existing case number. Once filed, there was no going back. Over the next month, Ethan grew smug. He'd call occasionally, pretending to check on me, but mostly fishing for updates. You'll be happier, Leah, he said once. You'll see. Maybe you can even find a smaller place closer to work. I played along, smiling through my rage. Meanwhile, Clara kept me updated. They haven't noticed a thing, she said. His lawyer hasn't cross-referenced the filed copy yet. This might actually work. I started sleeping again, eating again, feeling human again. Because even though I hadn't told Ethan yet, I knew what was coming, and it was going to be biblical. The final hearing date arrived on a pale February morning. I wore black, not for mourning, but for punctuation. Clara walked beside me, calm as ever. Ethan was already there, sitting with his lawyer, Mr. Dalton, a slick man with too much cologne and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. When Ethan saw me, he gave a sympathetic smile, like I was the tragic ex-wife who couldn't let go. You look nice, he said. Thanks, I replied. I'm feeling optimistic. He chuckled. That makes one of us. Oh, if only he knew. The judge entered, formalities were exchanged, and the clerk confirmed both parties' documents were in order. Then the judge flipped to the property division page, the one Clara had rewritten. He frowned slightly. Mr. Dalton, just to confirm, you're aware your client has consented to transferring all marital assets, including the residence, to Mrs. Durand? Dalton blinked. Sorry, could you repeat that? The judge read again, clearer this time. All property and accounts, including vehicle and house ownership, are hereby granted to Mrs. Leah Durand as sole proprietor, per Clause 14. The silence that followed was delicious. Ethan's smile froze. His lawyer flipped through the file frantically, then turned pale, the same shade as wet paper. "Your Honor," Dalton stammered, "there seems to be—" The judge cut him off. "This is the version filed and signed by both parties, correct?" The clerk nodded. "Filed under case number 4127, timestamp verified." The judge tapped his pen. "Then it's legally binding." He looked at me. "Congratulations, Mrs. Durand." And just like that, gavel down. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Ethan turned to me, eyes wide with shock. "Leah, what did you do?" I smiled sweetly. "Exactly what you planned to do, only better." He opened his mouth to protest, but Dalton grabbed his arm. "It's done," he whispered. "The order's final." Ethan stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time, not as the wife he'd underestimated, but as the opponent who'd outplayed him. As we stood to leave, I leaned close and whispered, "Next time you want to steal something from someone, make sure they're not smarter than you." Outside, Clara was already smiling. "You handled that beautifully," she said. "Thank you," I breathed. "I feel like I just walked out of a burning house." She smirked. "Technically, you still own that house." We laughed, the kind of laughter that comes from months of bottled pain finally finding release. Ethan tried to appeal, of course, claimed misunderstanding, paperwork confusion, and unintentional error. The judge denied it all. The timestamps and signatures made it airtight. Within 2 months, I had sole possession of the house, and his lawyer stopped returning his calls. Serena, the girlfriend, dumped him right after, according to a friend who saw her post a cryptic quote online: "Never trust a man who lies in ink." Couldn't have said it better myself. I repainted the house that spring, a soft gray, bright and calm. I replaced the furniture he'd picked, deleted his number, and planted lavender in the garden. For the first time, it truly felt like mine. One evening, while watering the plants, I caught my reflection in the window. Calm, steady, different. People always assume revenge is about destruction, but it's not. Sometimes it's about restoration. I didn't ruin Ethan. He did that to himself. All I did was make sure his lies had a paper trail straight to their consequences. Now, whenever someone mentions temporary separation, I can't help but smile, because I know what that phrase really means. It means one person is testing your boundaries and the other is about to redefine them. So if you ever find yourself sitting across from someone saying, "It's just to save the marriage," remember this: sometimes the best way to save yourself is to stop saving them. You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.